Welcome to Business Spotlight series. My name is Paul McCarthy, and today I'm joined by Mel Johnson from Sussex Social. Mel, it's great to have you with us today. Could you start by tell us a little bit more about your business and what you do?
Well, I'm a social media trainer, strategist, and consultant. I work with individuals and small businesses to help them get really clear on what they should be saying on social media, where they should be saying it, and to do that within the time, money, and resource they have available. Because that's a big barrier for a lot of us with our marketing. And just how and looking at how that aligns with your business objectives and how you can use that to grow your business.
Okay. And what sort of size businesses do you normally work with?
I work with a lot of individuals and sole traders, so
Right.
people who are sort of have got to a certain point on their business journey and are looking to grow, through to businesses that have around 20 people in them, who, just to give an example, one of the clients I work with, they've been around for about 20 years in various different guises and have never done any social media or marketing. So it's a real kind of dip your toe in the water and learning experience for them.
Right.
Which has its challenges, as you can imagine.
Oh, I bet. And is there any sort of particular sectors or market segments you concentrate
I tend to it's predominantly service-based business I work with, so people who don't have a physical product to sell. The reason being is that's a bit of a different skill set on social media, and my background's always been in kind of B2B. And I think as well, for me, the real power is in mobilizing people to promote themselves and promote their business. And how do we do that? So yeah, it's predominantly service-based businesses, but within that spectrum, I don't have a particular sector that I work along with, but it will generally be people like coaches, accountants, solicitors, financial advisors, people who've got all the brilliant HR, people that we've got all the brilliant advice that we all need to know, but are not necessarily perhaps that confident or comfortable about with what they can be saying, and perhaps they need to be a little bit more compliant than some of us do.
Okay. So it sounds from how you described your business that you don't necessarily do it all for them. You're helping them become self-sufficient.
So it's a real mixed. So I'll give you a bit of a background story. So my background is in advertising, sales, and marketing. So I used to broker on a massive. We used to work for quite a small business, but we used to have some really kind of big blue chip clients. And I retrained upskill, depending on what you want to call it, in 2016. And I started working, I was doing social media management. And then I think around that time, there was becoming this real, I'm going to use some terminology that makes me cringe a little bit, Paul, but it's kind of reality of what it's called, this kind of real thing that you'll know as a coach, there's all this talk about kind of personal branding and, needing, and LinkedIn was becoming a bit more than an online CV. And there was this real kind of need for people to actually be talking about their story, but also their business, because people by people. And what I identified was that social media management, as you can probably imagine, can be quite lonely. I worked in a client-facing job my entire career, so I was used to being with people. And what I identified at the time was that there were a lot of people who were particularly coming out of the corporate world or wanting to get better at marketing, but they didn't feel very confident to kind of share their story and understand how that sort of integrates with the message that they wanted to put out there, or perhaps how their employees could do that. So I moved away from doing the kind of general social media management more into kind of like a small group training model, which is my, I guess, passion and my sweet spot. And I now kind of do a little bit of a mixture of, so the done for you is I will work with people to develop that initial strategy and then look at who we would need to implement that. And that might be somebody they already have within the business through training. It might be an upskill in their marketing department. And then I can support them on a consultancy basis by, doing monthly reporting or writing content or accountability. But I don't tend to do the sort of day-to-day in and out platform management where we're, kind of engaging with people and responding to requests and all of those different types of things. But yeah, a lot of the work I do is around, we're working with businesses who've got somebody who needs to strengthen what they're saying in that proposition, or they simply haven't got to the stage where they're ready to get somebody else to do it for them. So they want that initial strategy so they can work to, that's a goal that they can work towards as a business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So I understand there was a business need there, and something you saw. Was there any other reasons? Because obviously you could have gone and worked for another company. You could have gone and done this for an organization.
Yeah.
Why did you do it on your own? Why did you
I
set
did
up the
try,
business?
and that's another story. I think for me is I had when I was coming out of my corporate, this is a bit of a mum story because I know a lot of people that were in a similar situation. So when I went back to work after my daughter was born, the company that I worked for had gone into administration and gone through a management buyout, and various things happened, and I had a few mental health issues which related to postnatal depression, and for all intents and purposes, I ended up leaving my my corporate job. And I looked around, and this was back in 2015. So the world, of course, was a vastly different place then.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was no real flexibility. Everybody was in the office. And all of the jobs that I was getting approached about and things I wanted to do were, well, no, you need to come into the office in London 5 days a week and you need to take clients out in the evening. And that was something that we really didn't want to do for our family. So I thought really long and hard about what I could do, and it had been very drawn out process, and to be honest, my confidence was in tatters. And then when I retrained, I did a strategic social media course with a company called Digital Mums, who don't exist anymore. And during that time I worked with a live client, and that really helped me to build my confidence back up. So one of the reasons that I decided I wanted to work myself was, one, to have the flexibility to be around for my family, but also because I knew that there was a lot of people that I was speaking to every day who were in a similar situation to what I was in, or coming out of the corporate world and didn't know how to get clients. And my original thing was that I'm only going to work with women because I don't want them to feel exactly how I felt when I started doing what I was doing. So that was my kind of reason for doing it. And I think doing it for myself was because I actually went for an interview, and the flexibility things, but I went for an interview and they phoned me up and they said, we really like you, but we think you want to work for yourself. So we worried.
Really? Fantastic.
And then I had a conversation with somebody who was a client of mine for years, and we became friends, and we still keep in touch now. And she said to me, we were having a call, and she said to me, you can do anything you want, she said, because I know you both personally and professionally, but you need to decide what that is. Which was a very good lesson for me, because it was something I really respected, who was kind of outside of my normal social circle. So I thought, right, no, I'm going to go out on my own. I'm going to do this in a way that feels comfortable and right for me. And because I want to access those people who really need that kind of expertise. And at the time, there's a lot more social media training around now than there used to be.
Yeah.
Which obviously is a challenge.
Oh, excellent. So there's a variety of things then, really, wasn't there? There's the business need, there was a need personally for your own, for you, and a need for the family, and also getting that validation, I suppose, from some people and companies.
Yeah, and I mean, you'll know as a coach that, we all kind of need to sort of readdress quite often, like, why we're doing these things.
Yeah.
And I think as our businesses change and as we learn about ourselves as people, that, I guess, that why, if you want to call it that, does tend to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that there are other companies doing similar things now. Probably wasn't 8 years ago, but there are now. What makes you different? What's your secret sauce? What are you really good at?
What I'm really good at, I think, is, so people tell me it's helping them feel confident and motivated to go out there and actually do it. I think with social media, there's so much advice about best practice, and you should be doing this and you should be doing that. But going back to what I said at the beginning, well, that doesn't always work for businesses. So it's really about being realistic, because there is no point me saying to you, Paul, you need to go out and do a video on LinkedIn every single day. I wouldn't tell you to do that, but to give an example, because you're probably not going to do that. And then people get demotivated and they don't do it. So I think that for me, and also being very data driven, because a lot of people think social media is about pretty graphics and bright colors, but actually if you don't understand what it's doing for your business, or if what you're doing is working, then you can't really move forward. So I guess it's the slightly more nerdy side, or the side that sometimes makes people go, oh my God, I don't want to look at that. So
right. So rather than just ploughing it all out all the time, putting all that, the sort of building blocks in before you sort of do that. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And you did mention a couple of people on your journey. What has there been a particular person that has inspired you or pushed you?
You know, this is always such a good question, because I think it's, I remember it coming up at a round table event I was involved in for International Women's Day last year. And I actually did a post on International Women's Day about five people that are within my network that inspired me, who were actually all female. But for me, genuinely, it's the business owners and the people that I'm lucky enough to meet every single day, who wear 62 hats, or however many we all do as business owners, particularly when we're starting out, and just keep going. And I think particularly at the moment, because we are, it's tough out there, people, we're all concerned about money. I haven't even looked at the budget yet today. And I think, it's just, and also just me, and how collaborative and helpful other people can be. I find that really inspiring. But no, there's not just kind of one person, if you like.
Okay.
Whole group, whole tribe.
Each person, it is that sort of, you meet one person, go, this is amazing. Then a few months later, you meet someone else and go, blimey, they're amazing as well. So, and I totally understand that. And what's been your biggest learning since you've gone into business for yourself?
My biggest learning: there's never a good time to start. I mean, I was sat downstairs with somebody, I'm at a co-working space today, next to somebody who came on a training course with me before she starts her business. It's her 3-year anniversary today. When did we go into lockdown?
Yeah.
When
But she's still here.
She's still here. And I think that's the thing, she's very inspiring. I think that's the thing, I sort of set up and it was all going out and training people. I set that all up in late 2019. It was going really well. If I'd known what was to come, I probably wouldn't have done it. I think getting out of your comfort zone and going out there and doing things that perhaps you maybe wouldn't do. And then I think, and I guess this is going back to data, most of us won't get things right that first time, but you can always learn from that. So I think trying to focus on the positives rather than the negatives.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So there's a few there. Fantastic.
Sorry.
I got a few learnings. That's better. I got three for the price of one, I think.
I could probably have written 3,000 words on that, but
and you did touch there on when you said about never being a good time to start. Obviously, we have gone through a few years of fun in this country with Brexit, then COVID, and are we in a recession? I'm not really sure. The economy side of things. How have you made any big changes during that time in your business?
Well, yeah. I mean, the biggest change because the business kind of as it is now was probably really only sort of 6 months. I was very part-time when I first started because my son was about 7 months old. So the big change was switching from delivering in-person training to doing it all online. I mean, the challenges for me around that were, I had a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old at home.
Wow.
So that made things incredibly difficult, as it was for a lot of us mums. And, my husband is brilliant, but the reality was at the time, he had a full-time job that was paying the bills. So, something's got to give. Yeah, and I think so that's been the challenge. And I think, and then kind of readjusting to, the fact that the world is back open.
Yeah.
So I think it's just rolling with what's going on. And I think probably like a lot of business owners, I think, realistically people feel, I mean, there's a lot of people whose businesses absolutely have boomed over lockdown. I think for a lot of people, they feel they kind of lost a couple of years.
Yeah.
Which I guess is probably how I feel, to be honest.
Right. So it was really the business had to take a back seat for family. Yeah. Okay. And we sort of talked about the past a bit, but let's look into the future. So with your business and your industry and what you're in, what do you see as the big challenges over the next 5 years?
What do I see as the big challenges? I mean, you've probably heard all the chat about ChatGPT.
Yeah.
These new automation tools, and I'm married to a developer. He thinks all these things are wonderful. I don't kind of share that. I think that's going to be a challenge for my industry, marketing as a whole, and copywriters. I think the challenge being around, the reality is that most people want a quick fix.
Yeah.
Life, that's just the way we're wired as human beings. So I think the challenge is going to be about educating people on how that balances with actually being a human, because nobody wants to talk to a bot. I think one of the challenges I think I've identified is that certainly bigger corporations are pushing more money into social media, but what that means is actually people are expecting to have a much better understanding of what the actual return on investment is. And because it's depending on the type of business you're in, that can be a challenge. And I think, although it's a positive, I think more focus on personal branding is perhaps going to be a challenge for people who run social media accounts of businesses, because people need to understand how that core offering fits within the staff or the people that are expected to promote that, which is probably not as much of a challenge for myself because I'm kind of within that space anyway. But I think for some people I think it's going to be a challenge overall.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I understand. Doesn't surprise me you talked about the AI side of things. Did you really think that people are just going to think that's a quick fix and reduce their marketing spend, thinking they could just stick things into ChatGPT?
I don't know. I think it's going to be an interesting one. I certainly think people might try. I know somebody who asked ChatGPT to do their son's maths homework the other day, and it came up with 2 different answers.
Brilliant. Yeah.
I mean, I think there's always the next big thing, isn't there?
Yeah.
So we'll see what will happen. I mean, I'm married to my husband's a web developer, and he builds bespoke websites from scratch and does all the back end stuff. But you can go and buy a website from, you can use a drag and drop something. You can use something like Wix or Squarespace. There's a lot of other solutions out there, but people still want that level. But it's just a different type of offering. So I think we're going to see. I'm going to remain on the fence for now.
Okay.
Enjoy the conversations around it.
Keep your eye on it, basically. See how it moves. Okay. And what about your aspirations over the next 5 years? Where do you want to take your business?
I think for me, it's just kind of really expanding my offering. So really just getting clear on what exactly that is, and also moving. One of the other things I do is I work with people to really help them with their email marketing. And I think that's really important. So I would like to have a much clearer offering around that, and just creating more collaborations and partnerships. So whether that's as people as associates with myself, or just working with other people who are smaller businesses or sole traders to offer a more, I guess, rounded solution.
Okay. And if you could start again, what would you do differently, if anything?
What I would do differently, I think, is look at getting funding straight away, even if it was just a grant from the local council or something like that, because I think particularly for women, they don't realise how that kind of thing is available for them.
Right.
So a lot of the time you end up being a self-funded startup, and actually there's loads of things out there that even if you think you're not, that you might be entitled to. It might just be a small grant to help you get your website up and running or something like that. I think it's just that type of thing is just such a boost for small businesses, and it's something I wish I'd I'd known about earlier on and thought about looking into and gone out and got, basically.
Would that have been to invest in other areas, or was it just to take the stress off you financially?
I think it would have been to invest in other areas.
Right. Okay. Give you a faster growth, I'd imagine. Yeah. Move you forward quicker. Yeah. Okay. And looking back as well, if you could give your 18-year-old self some advice, this could go on for hours. It certainly could be. What would you say to your 18-year-old self?
Well, do you know what? I really struggled over this question because I was like, I would have told myself to do less partying. But then I was like, but I actually really enjoyed myself.
Absolutely. So, that's just jealousy, isn't it? That we can't do it now.
Just do it and have faith in your ability.
Right.
Travel more, I've written down, because it gets a lot more expensive when you get older and you have kids, especially when they go to school. And I think teach myself more about finance and planning.
Really interesting.
Yeah, because I think we are incredible. I mean, I work with a lot of people within that sector, and I think we are incredibly badly educated about it in this country, but it's really, really important.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure my 18-year-old self would have listened to any of that,
but you would have tried.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting about financial planning. I couldn't agree more about that. There are some good books for children to read, but they're not actually on the curriculum or anything like that.
No, I found out a networking thing the other day, that you can start a pension with when you're not 5 or something.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, most of our financial planning came from our parents, didn't it?
Me.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Are there any sort of projects or anything you're working on at the moment that you'd like to sort of mention or talk about?
Yeah, the only 2 things really. So I'm very much getting back to doing in-person group training. So I'm running a social media strategy day in Brighton on the 27th of April. I think we all know it, we're all guilty of it. We go on a training course, we go, that's brilliant, and then we go away and carry on doing exactly what we were doing before. So the idea is that it's a whole day for people to take that time out of their business and develop the foundations of a solid social media strategy and actually go away with something tangible that they can implement. And I'm working with a copywriter at the moment just on about having more of a joined up LinkedIn proposition. So so she will help people to really know what their profile should be and make sure it's optimized, and then I will be actually teaching people how to use LinkedIn, or perhaps holding their hand through doing so, because I think people can feel a little bit scared about that. So a bit more of a kind of tighter, but sort of done for you and with you type proposition.
Got you. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And if anybody wants to get in contact with you to watch this video, what's the best way of contacting you?
So probably the best way is either on LinkedIn. So there's lots of Melanie Johnsons. I'm Melanie Johnson, social media coach, or via my website, which is www.thesussexsocial.co.uk. And that's got my phone number and email address and all of those different things.
Fantastic. Well, Mel, thank you so much for spending the time. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. And obviously, I wish you all the very best in the future.
Thank you. It's good. And thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Mel.
Thank you. Bye.